Here we have a 2023 BMW M4 finished in Brooklyn Gray Metallic. This is the second iteration of the BMW M4 and the sixth generation, tying into the BMW M3 M4 lineup. Here we'll get to talk about the specs of the vehicle, do a drive, and actually get to speak with the owner and get his impressions of the car. I hope you guys will enjoy this video.
Obviously, we have here a 2023 BMW M4 Coupe. This is one of the most iconic sports cars to come out of Germany, and it has an interesting history. And actually, you have to go back even further than the M4 name, because the whole M lineup started with the BMW M3, which was originally introduced in 1986, and it was only made because there was a German racing series, the DTM series, and they required, for homologation purposes, that BMW have a production-ready model. So they made the M3 based off the E33 series. As time went on, the popularity for the M3 line grew, and you had the M3 Coupe, the M3 Sedan, the M3 Convertible, multiple generations from the iconic E36, which was the first to feature an inline-six engine, a 3-liter inline-six, just like how this one has a 3-liter inline-six, to the E36, which was one of the key sports cars of the 2000s, and the E90 generation that actually featured a 4-liter V8. Now, after the E generation, BMW decided to separate the M3 name and have it for sedans only, and then that's when the M4 name came in. And here, this is technically, in a way, the second iteration of the M4, but most people will know the M4 traces its name all the way back to that E30 M3 that was introduced, I believe, in the 1985 Frankfurt Motor Show. And since then, it's been a hit, and it's been an iconic staple of the German sports car scene. M4 finished in Brooklyn Gray Metallic. This vehicle has a 3-liter inline-six twin turbo hooked to a 6-speed manual transmission, and this is a rear-wheel drive model. It's probably got a 0 to 60 time in the low 4 to 4.1 second range, and in this particular spec, it's got a bit of a Grand Tour setup. It is fast. When you see the BMW M badge on the back of vehicles, especially if it's like an M3, M4, M5, you know it will be a performance weapon that you can use on the streets, but it's still comfortable enough for daily use. You will have nice luxuries. You will have nice feeling seats, great material. You can use it as a daily driver, but if you need to rip home after work, you can do it in this car because it is fast enough. It is good enough to do so. Sure. So with this M4, the controversial parts of the front, it's not the laser headlights. Those look pretty cool. It's not necessarily the extra cooling down here. Those look pretty cool. It is the front grille here. This is a pretty radical design change for BMW in many ways. They're known for the small kidney grills. Typically, it'd look like half of what this grille would normally look like. But when they introduced this car online, it did generate a lot of controversy and hate. A lot of people compared it to the Timmy Turner character from the Very Odd Parents show with the teeth. But when you think about it and look at it in person, it actually looks very aggressive, and you have a pretty interesting design view. But when I see this vehicle, I do think that it was designed for the European market in a way. Because of the elongated license plates that they have there, it makes me think that the designers were thinking owners will have a front plate mounted so it break up the grille in a way. Now in America, some states require front plates. In states like Michigan or other states, they don't. So you do have the full grille exposed. I will be honest, at first I saw it online, I was like, okay, it's not necessarily my favorite, but in person it does actually look really good. It gives a very muscular look. It's a very performance-oriented grille, and also there are different types of grills too for this M3, which we may be able to get into at a later time. Performance engine, like a 3-liter inline-six like this one, it needs to breathe. So you have to feed air into those intercoolers, into that radiator system. And also, inline-six engines in the past were known to have cooling issues due to the elongated cooling passages. That's largely been alleviated now because car companies are very clever with how they can manage air around the vehicles. Even here, you can probably get ducts to feed in air behind the wheel so that they can help cool those brakes. And you have different brake options too now. These brakes, they're excellent stopping power for that daily street use. But if you want something more intense and more track focused, you can even get carbon ceramic brakes. They may not be the best for daily use or use on road like this, but they can generate stopping power. And as I mentioned too, these are not the carbon ceramic motor for ventilation. You have the blue caliper, so you have great stopping power for most street use.
Here we talked about the BMW laser light system, a system that has a series of mirrors and reflectors within the headlight assembly, which reflects and focuses light into a lens, projecting it on the road.
You have these beautiful LED taillights, and you have that when you're in the dark and you see that taillight, illuminate, you have that continuous light. It is really, really classy to see. And then you have here, this is your basic part of the turn signal, and right here, this part that's basically the length of my pinky, that's your reverse light area right there. So when you pop it in reverse, you'll see that illuminate, but we are in the sun, so it will be difficult to see right here. We have the 3-liter inline-6 twin-turbo engine, and BMW does inline-6s better than anyone. This here is the S58 engine. It is very similar to the B58 engine that BMW has engineered and now is being used in the Toyota Supra. But this one, it's a little more hardcore, got a little more power, a little more, German grunt for this vehicle, and it's great because the twin turbos really make this thing come alive. And unlike turbocharged engines of the past that had, lots of lag and were very, they felt more sporadic when driving, this is almost instantaneous. It doesn't have that, lag of the past. So some people do like the lag for fun. And back in the day when turbochargers were common on performance vehicles, lag was when the driver was basically waiting for the turbo to create that boost. So when you see like a boost gauge, you'll see the boost gauge will have its 0 reading, and then it will have basically like a minus 30 psi and a 30 psi. During that time below 0, that was called the vacuum stage, and then the vacuum would build up, and you'd hear the turbos making a whistling sound. And during that time, that's when it's like lagging. And then once it has passed its vacuum phase, and then it goes into the positive boost range, that's when it's boosting. That's when you feel the power. And nowadays, these vehicles are very well engineered where lag is not really a thing anymore. This thing will make boost at the low RPM range, as opposed to maybe a like a Japanese sports car from the 90s or a German sports car from the 80s and 90s, where the boost may only come on at like 3,000 or 4,000 RPM. This thing's making boost almost immediately past idle, like under 2,000 RPM in many cases. The boost is already coming on. So it almost, in a way, and this may be controversial as I say this, but whatever, it's almost like how a V8 engine will just have like torque from the very start. They're trying to go for something like that, so you eliminate that lag and you have a more, once you hit the throttle, it's ready, it's instant, the power is there. So that's what I mean by not really having any lag. And I've had this on cars I've owned before, but when you open the vehicle, you'll see that the window will slightly lower, as you saw there. I believe, I've been told that a lot of this is because, one, car makers may not want to have the window catch on part of the trim, potentially leading to a break and causing issues for both the driver and warranty claims. Two, when you actually get into the vehicle, like I'm about to do here, when you close the door, it will create less pressure for the occupants, and it'll be hypothetically more comfortable. Here though, when you're sitting in this vehicle, this is a good purpose-built vehicle. This steering wheel, you can have a great 9-3 hand position here. It's a very fat, grippy steering wheel. You can even program different driving modes. So every owner who has their BMW, they can maybe have M1 as a more daily focused comfort setting oriented vehicle, because you do have adaptive suspension in these vehicles. M2, maybe that's for when you're running late and you need to meet some friends or family. That's when you can have this as a little more performance focused. Things tighten up, things become more responsive. When you hit that throttle, that's when you'll know when you're in the performance oriented driving setting, to your specification, of course. One thing I do love too, you have this beautiful digital display cluster. You have your speed right here. You have the tachometer. It's very driver focused, so you can easily see what the what the readings are, how fast you're going, especially in case there's a police officer nearby. And This will be hard to see today due to the sunlight, but you do have a heads-up display. So you'll have those key metrics, speed. Maybe you can also have your navigation. That can be displayed on the windshield. Not necessarily a new feature, but it is pretty cool. So I'm sitting in this vehicle. It is driver focused, and it's pretty easy to see that. Like, I have a good driving position already. I have good pedal feel already. I can grip the steering wheel, easily have a 9 and 3 position. Now that you see it on, you can see the speedometer, you can see the tachometer. Also, being an N, it can tell which gear I'm in, 1, 2, whatever. And also, it's even got the navigation in the center. You do have it on the main multimedia screen to the right of you, but if you're driver focused, you may not, gaze your eyes there, as you're gonna have them on the road. Now, I also do faintly see the heads-up display on the windshield. However, it is difficult because we're here in a sunny day. But it is cool to see. But it's great too, and you hear that, and that is a great sounding engine. I love the Mark 6s. I'm shocked that his wife allows such things. Exhaust. I go in and out of the So this is good. Actually, as I'm about to drive this vehicle, I have not driven a manual transmission since I broke my ankle. So this to me is practically physical therapy for my clutch foot. So I think that's fair game where, I get to see how my, healed and recovered ankle works with, managing a clutch. Oh, it's weird too. I actually just felt the seatbelt kind of tighten on me. So there must be some sort of adjustment here. So that's interesting.
It's a BMW and Mercedes thing. They like to hug you a little bit when you go.
Clearly, I'm feeling the love. Yep, and you definitely have those good old-fashioned M brakes that they'll stop you. It's actually a pretty easy clutch to figure out. It's not super complex or like weird. So I find it a very easy clutch to figure out. It shifts pretty easy too. BMWs tend to have like a rubbery feel on the shift gates from what I've noticed, but this one's pretty easy to drive, and it's not too notchy. So for a vehicle spec like this to be as like I said, the owner kind of wanted to have more of a grand touring vibe. This makes sense, but it's actually just a real easy car to drive, and I really appreciate that. But yeah, these brakes, man, really mean business. They are not like economy car brakes that you'll find in your Honda Civic that you probably have to stand with 2 feet on compared to this thing. Yeah, and really good position too. It's really easy to, find a great driving position here. The owner of this vehicle, who, we'll have a sit down in a moment. We're close in height, so I didn't really have to adjust it. It just feels at home, and these seats are wonderful. I really think that BMW,
whatever it is, they have driving feel down to a science. The seats feel great. The throttle feels great. Clutch feels easy. Steering, from what I can tell, it feels great. We'll get more feedback on that in just a second as we're about to do our little highway route. And here we're at a institution of higher learning where we're having some youth and young drivers nearby as they're embarking on their academic careers. Oftentimes they're not the most aware drivers, so we will be careful as we are driving this lovely vehicle around, especially as these students are often a little another BMW family member there of the M family, the M6. So see, there's BMW family ties abound.
Welcome to Ann Arbor.
Yeah, it is a really easy vehicle to drive. Sometimes with performance vehicles, the clutch is very hard and very stiff. Same with the with the throttle, and steering's very heavy. This is pretty light steering. For people that are able to drive a manual gearbox, which I know those numbers are shrinking by the day, this is a pretty easy transmission to shift with. Not that hard to figure out. For many performance vehicles, they tend to have very notchy, feels with their gearbox. I personally like that. I do like, almost like that short throw, like, metallic, shifter bolt action feel. Not everyone likes that, so I get it. This is a vehicle that it's a performance vehicle, but it's made for anyone to feel comfortable driving. And with that too, I'll say this: the throttle's actually not that sensitive, because a lot of sports cars tend to have very, very sensitive throttles. So when you get in on it, it feels like you're about to rev the engine to the moon. This one, I'm driving at pedestrian speeds as I'm obeying the laws of the road. Something that, many owners of these vehicles don't often say or adhere to. But this, it's easy to do. And you can just cruise in this car, enjoy it, hear that light hum of the inline six and the low RPMs. I don't really hear, so far, I'm trying to listen to see if I can hear the turbos or any evidence of them. I don't hear anything yet. But it is torquey. I'm in fifth gear and I just did a slight pull and I went from 35 to 50. And it is very responsive. Easy to downshift too. I just did a downshift there and had zero issue. Oh, red light. So yeah, no, it's a real pleasure to drive. And right here we have interesting planning. Oh, now they're letting me turn. And actually over the bumps too, we just went over train tracks. I didn't feel like too much of a judder and jar that you feel on very stiff suspensions. Overall, it's pretty easy to just get it and go.
Do a burnout.
And you hear the devil on my shoulder, encouraging me to partake in irresponsible driving in the background. And, since I'm driving the car of a dear friend, I will not do a burnout, as I don't want to, have him incur any expenses on the tires. And these rear tires are probably very expensive, so, I will be, delicate for the time being in this beautiful vehicle. And I have to say, too, the leather on this steering wheel feels great. It's funny when you drive leather, or like you drive vehicles from mainstream brands, and they try and have like a fake synthetic material that looks like leather, and after a couple years it becomes hard as rock. This feels really nice, and I have a feeling that this material, it will feel good for years to come. And I do love the navigation here. Now obviously it's a very limited display, you have more information here, but it gives you like a rough idea of where you are. It doesn't show road names or anything, but points you in the right direction. And if you're familiar with the area, you'll know, okay, I'm on X road, or I'm coming up to, Y highway. So that's a nice feature. But yeah, and here we're, feeling it in these light and delicate bends. It's pretty flat. I don't feel a lot of body roll. I'm enjoying it. hear that inline six. It's a good sound. Yeah, driving this vehicle, for ankle movement is better than any physical therapy that any hospital system could try and sell me. Oh wow, yeah, look at those bumps. You definitely don't want to hit those in a sports car like this, and I would not want to, damage these lovely, machine finished wheels, and I would not want to mess up these tires because, those brakes in the road could do some damage. To the highway.
You can introduce.
There you go.
Well, yeah, this spec is probably like 4 to 4.1 seconds, and we'll see.
Got some beans.
Woohoo! So I did hear a little evidence of the turbos. Like I heard a little whistle there on that. And you're easy to follow the speed limit. As you know, we always follow those, rules of the road, and we don't encourage irresponsible driving on this channel. But yeah, easy to drive and actually very smooth. Once again, I can hold a conversation with friends here in the car, and as a reminder that I'm following the speed limit, I have the heads-up display not only telling me the speed limit is 70 miles an hour, but I am, adhering to the speed limit and the rules of the road in this, lovely state of Michigan with the smoothest roads imaginable to man. Oh, and here's another evidence of that we have, useless drivers not knowing what they're doing. You have to love the American driver's education system because clearly these people don't know what on earth they're doing. Absolutely appalling. It's nice too because as I was getting near the red line, it actually has like a built-in shift light. So, the red line is, I believe it looks like it's around 7,200 RPMs, give or take. So you'll know when to shift. You see, you have like the yellow bar and then the red bar at that red line. So, nothing abnormal.
So this car, when it's cold out, like when the engine first starts and it's cold, you'll actually have a lower red line. The yellow will be a little bit lower down, and as the car warms up a bit, then it'll go higher.
Which makes sense. Yeah, I've seen similar technology.
Protect the engine a little bit.
Oh, so it looks like, Michigan's finest. They, nab someone for, breaking the law. It's a shame that people of ill repute are on our roads doing such terrible things and backing up, honest travelers like myself in this beautiful BMW.
I've never exceeded 70 in this car ever.
Yep. Only the most honest drivers drive this vehicle. But yeah, it's a wonderful car. You can drive this thing on the highway easily in suburban America. I will say, even though this manual transmission isn't hard to operate, driving this in a big city like a Chicago or a New York, it would be tough. So you better know what you're getting yourself into, and you better, be prepared for that. You better think about your driving situation if you are interested in the manual. One thing too, and I, spoke with the owner on this, and we'll get some feedback from him in a moment. He did imply that he believed that BMW kind of, thought that the manual transmission addition for this generation was a bit of an afterthought, and that they really put more of their focus in the automatic transmission, which that is the faster transmission, especially, if you get the automatic gearbox equipped with the X-Drive, their all-wheel drive platform. You can get a 0 to 60 time in the low 3s, and with some tunes, you maybe you've been able to get into the high 2s according to some rumors. This, you'll be in the low 4s, and that's plenty quick. You will beat most cars on the road, but just know some owners have felt that BMW didn't put their best effort into the manual. I find it rather enjoyable, lovely vehicle, feels great, and it just feels like there's torque anywhere. Like I'm in 6th gear and I could, give a light tap and, get up to speed, give a nice downshift. And it's a smooth smooth transmission, really easy to downshift, really easy to figure out, and it feels great. I love the feel of the shift knob too. I don't imagine a lot of BMW M owners are the types to buy these aftermarket shift knobs. This one feels great, great material. It has a good anatomic to fit with. If you grab the shifter from here or here, easy to operate. And as we're coming on the exit, you don't do a downshift there. I can do it this way too. Yeah, very easy, fun, lovely. Now, I'm gonna try and avoid the messed up parts of this exit ramp. As many people know, many of these roads are not the smoothest. Handles the bumps like a champ. One thing too that I'd have to get used to if I own this vehicle, so as noted, as you may have seen in some of the B-roll shots earlier, the throttle pedal is floor mounted. For me, with if I were to do like a bliff of the throttle with my foot, I've always found these floor mounted throttles more difficult to do, a heel toe. I prefer the floating pedals, that's just my opinion. But I do love, overall I love the package, and I think BMW did an excellent job. I hope that they don't, leave manual transmissions out to dry. I've heard that they don't want to make them in the coming generations anymore. BMW, don't do that. Keep the manual going. And let's see, we'll do a lovely. Yeah, this is a wonderful car. And if you're, someone who has a light commute to work and you need something that's moderately practical, this is it. You got great seats, great technology. You have usable back seats that are, being utilized as we speak. Great trunk space. If you need all-wheel drive, you can get all-wheel drive. It's a great vehicle. And I know that front grille is polarizing, but in person it looks a lot better than people think. And this is a theory that I have. I think that this generation will actually become very sought after in the future. It's one of those things where people were very harsh on that grille design, but as things age, when this model eventually gets discontinued and the next BMW M3, M4 generation come out, this will likely be the last BMW M4 with a manual gearbox offered, with a traditional internal combustion engine offered. So for people who own this vehicle, hold on to it, especially if you have that manual gearbox. I do love Mr. Spots.
That's good food. Never let us down.
So, what did make you want to buy the M4? Because I know you were looking at the Supra, and I know you even looked at a Mustang Mach-1 because I recall you test driving one.
Correct. So ultimately, what made me kind of go for the M4 was probably at the root of it. I'm maybe more of a BMW fan. I had a couple of these cars. They've all been great. So that, at the time, the ordering process was also a little bit strange on the Supra. It's like a lottery system.
Right.
So all the dealers I talk to, it's like you kind of order the car, you don't really know you get it necessarily. You can't really spec it exactly how you want it. Just if one kind of is like it that comes in, you get a call and can then opt to buy it. But they could not give me a time frame on how long it would take. So it's one of the reasons. I mean, look, honestly, I think the Supra is a great car. It looks nice. It's perhaps, after sitting in one, it's a little bit small for me. I do like the M4 is a bit roomier, a little bit airier, especially if you go for the carbon roof. You don't have the mechanics of the sunroof to kind of rob you of the headspace inside of there. So it's kind of nice just to have that extra little space, especially if you're a little bit taller. I'm about 6 foot tall.
And I know you also were interested in the manual vehicle, and I believe the Supra manual transmission was just announced when you were looking at actively wanting to buy a sports car. So wanting a manual Supra probably would have even delayed the process further, is my estimate.
Absolutely, yep. I kind of figured it was, it was again one of those kind of a wild goose chase wait time. You really didn't know when it was going to happen. You just didn't know how long you're going to wait. And let's be honest, right? These cars are fun, they're exciting, but if I'm waiting for like a year or two for it, I think it loses its luster a little bit. With the BMW, I kind of just walked in the dealer and kind of told them I was interested, and they said, yeah, it's $2,000 down, and then you can just order the car, and it's actually fully refundable until the car goes into production. So pretty appealing. You tell them exactly what options, colors, wheels that you kind of want for it, and you can kind of get it accordingly. So yeah, it's kind of a nice way to do it.
Nice. And I know, especially with German luxury these days, it's hard to find, like you wanted a manual transmission equipped sports car. Audi, to my knowledge, I don't think they have any manual equipped vehicles anymore. Mercedes hasn't had any for the American market in a long time. And if you were to go to Porsche, you are basically starting at $100,000. And as we all know, the smallest list of options that can quickly jump that price to over $120,000 or even $130,000. So I'm sure, did that cross your mind? And you weren't interested in the Cayman or the Boxster, like the 718 Porsche, correct?
Correct. Yeah, but, look, even the 718 isn't cheap. The 718 probably, you can easily get, if you get the GT4, you get one of those, higher end ones. You're well over 100 even with those cars.
Yeah.
Definitely price and value was one of the considerations for this purchase. It's look, let's be honest, just for me in my current position right now, I was looking for something probably under 100, that I can kind of just enjoy, have fun with, not break the bank with too much, but still have kind of an enjoyable vehicle for, those nice sunny days. And
you had the opportunity to spec this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you didn't have to play the games with Toyota, as you mentioned earlier, and you were able to spec this as more like, even though it is an M3, like you had some, specs that are a little more like GT focused.
Right.
Not as track focused. Like, you don't have like the carbon ceramic brakes, obviously. So, which probably aren't useful for your, driving, not only your driving style, but your driving patterns.
Right. Yeah, because look, some of the, I guess, more popular options, there's, if you ever go in one of those, M3, M4, owners circles, there's a hot debate about, do you get the regular seats, do you get the carbon buckets? I think it's very personal choice. For me, I drive the car a lot for just daily kind of use, as well as a commute from Bay City to Ann Arbor back. So it's about an hour and a half drive each way. So, my parents live down here, and my work is up there. So that was one of my deciding factors. Plus, if you're I'll be honest, I think if you're a little bigger, you probably would enjoy just regular system a little bit more. The carbons, I sat in one of those. They're not bad. I don't think they're too bad. We do track the car quite often. I think you probably should consider it. But just for my kind of use, it's probably a little bit too extreme for what I would use it for. So I skipped the carbon ceramic brakes, skipped the carbon buckets, and I also skipped the carbon fiber package. Which that's like, if you love your carbon fiber, I can understand maybe you spend a little bit more for it, but it's almost $5,000, and you only get little bits and pieces. Like a little bit on the lower end, the mirrors, the wing, a little bit in the diffuser. You don't even get them on the side skirts, which is a little bit strange. I figured you would get the side skirts,
really?
But you don't. No.
So then you would have a carbon fiber package, carbon fiber roof, hypothetically, depending on the order.
Right, the roof comes with it, yeah.
Yeah, but then you'd have the gloss, like that piano black. Oh, that'd be interesting. To me, that's an overlook on BMW's part, because that creates a big mismatch.
Right, because I think, look, they could have jacked the price up a little more and put in some carbon fiber side skirts. I feel like that may have been worth it for some people. Again, I don't think I would have paid extra for it. But if you love your carbon, because like the biggest piece really is the roof, and I think that's the real eye-catching thing you have, anyways, because that's your eye first goes to it. Functionally speaking, right, you have a lower center of gravity with lighter roof. So it makes the most amount of sense, I think. Plus, it's free.
Yep,
That's
yep.
the best part of it.
Now here's another question too. When that BMW, that design for this, the G generation, was unveiled and the grille was shown off the world, you got a lot of online hate. What was your view when you first saw that grille online, and you had the general look, but then when you saw it in person, did you like it from the get-go? Did you, were you a little apprehensive at first? Did you have any changes, more or less, or have you been consistent in liking the vehicle? Because you obviously like it since you bought it.
Honestly, it's a great question. I'll be honest with you, I was not a fan. I saw it and I was like, it's not my thing. A little bit too much, a little bit too bold. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it really is, you kind of see more of it, you see it in person. And look, to be honest, it comes back to what choices do you have, right? If you're looking for something that's, kind of fun, manual, under 100K, you got the muscle cars, you got the Supra, you have this car. I think you have like maybe a Golf option, but it's like you don't have that many cars to choose from necessarily. So, and I guess it's just I've had the BMWs in the past. I know they're good cars underneath, so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna just go for it because I know it's a good car to drive, and I know it's a good car to kind of use. It's well put together, they're pretty comfortable. So. That's really what made my decision. Is there just weren't that many choices out there, and to be frank, I mean, like, Audi has big grille, right? Even some Mercedes have a pretty big grille.
Lexus has the big spindle grille.
Right. It's just, I guess that's the new design kind of language, and that's what I guess we'll just get used to it, right?
We will, and also too, if you look at other models, like even the American muscle like cars, like the Camaro, like the Camaro Z01, that's got a big grille.
Yep.
The newer Mustangs, like the Shelby especially, big, grille / opening. So
right.
Yeah, it is the styling now, and I think, as you look at other BMWs, like the new 7, that's also got a big grille. And it's funny too, because even on the electric vehicles, which typically don't need a grille, they still have the design elements showing that.
Yeah. I think this is BMW's new design language. I mean, anytime anyone changes anything, people are going to have polarizing opinions about it, which is totally normal. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think the more I see the car, the more I think it suits it well.
Right.
And then it kind of gives it like a little bit, move out my way kind of personality too, which is kind of nice on the highway because just pass people and keep going at 70, of course.
Of course, at 70.
Of course.
But with that too, now we have mutual friends that have BMWs, M4s, i4s, all that. Some friends have modified their vehicles, different exhausts, different, trinkets here and there. Do you see yourself modifying the vehicle? Do you see yourself doing anything like, obviously BMW has a history with Dean Performance, maybe getting some parts from them, or, maybe some other parts. And I know some people have complained that the wheels are too, they're not flush, and they've been getting the wheel spacers. Have you looked at getting wheel spacers, or have you looked at getting like an exhaust system? People have, people have looked at those things too.
Yeah, I mean, all great questions. I mean, really with this, honestly, my personal preference is I just like a clean OEM kind of car. I usually look, my thought process always is there are some engineers out there that got paid however many millions of dollars to do R&D, make this part, make it for the car specifically. So I'm always a firm believer if I just leave it the way it is, because I feel like the designers of the car know better than I do. I'm not an engineer by trade. I do enjoy some of the mechanics. I enjoy some of those, kinds of things. But I figure they know better than I do. So it's I just leave it the way that it is. I do some like little if you have like kind of OEM BMW parts, like I have like something simple like the little projector puddle lights that you guys saw in the matching 50th emblems and things like that.
Yes.
I like those kinds of little touches. Well, I really go for performance ones. Maybe in the future, if I kind of feel like, I want a little bit more power, I think Denon is a great one to go with. Or there's some tunes out there you can do that will net you quite a lot of power without doing too much work to it, so that's a possibility. I don't know how true it is. I do hear the manual transmissions, supposedly the clutch or the transmission has some issues handling too much power, so that's why they detuned it, which if you ask me, I don't know if that's really true. I feel like the BMW put it on paper just to kind of make it seem that way a little bit, but that's just my take.
I see.
Can I ask a closing question?
Sure.
Is that fine?
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about your M4?
Oh, it's a great question, but also kind of a hard one to answer. I'd say if you want a 5-second answer, it's really just the way that it drives. You know, the way that it drives, the way that it feels, the confidence you get. You know, it's as stable as it gets. Doesn't matter what speed you're going. Doesn't matter. Even the weather conditions, you know, doesn't matter as much. You swap the maybe for small seasons, you know. But it's got to be the way that it drives. You know, probably if I were to extend the question, you know, I'd probably say, of course, the styling. You know, I think it, you know, like I said, it's really grown on me. I think it's kind of a sharp design. You know, as you guys saw, I went with kind of a lighter theme around the car, kind of a lighter gray with the silver wheels, kind of a, you know, a saddle interior. I tend to like a little bit brighter colors just because I feel like you see the lines of the car a little bit more. You know, you end up just kind of, I feel like getting just a little bit more detail inside of there. So that's usually my preference. For optioning the car and my thought process over it, so I kind of just like the whole color theme, that light gray with the blue accents. So to kind of get blue accents around, so you have to get the laser lights to get that blue in the light. So I did that. I mean, I'm a big fan of good lighting as well. Obviously, it's, you know, a good safety feature to have. They are really bright, probably to the point that they might annoy other people in non-good lanes. But, you know, they do have an automatic high beam, so it'll shut the high beam off when it senses another car coming the other way. You know, so blue calipers were actually standard, so I didn't change that. That just kind of came with the car. And then for the interior and things like that, you know, I wanted the lighter look to it, so I went with that kind of saddle. They call it tartufo is a BMW term, but you know, the kind of a saddle interior. So I wanted the full leather, kind of a more GT feel to it, you know, a little bit more luxury to it. So it's got leather, extended leather on the dash. You can see it's kind of more, you know, the saddle color on the bottom half of the dash. That's you know, the full leather car. Just adds a little bit more there, a little bit more to the door cards, I think. I mean, you can see it's not perfect. You still have some spots that don't have it.
Yeah.
But you know, it's for a sports car. I mean, it's probably as good as you're gonna get. And then after that, you know, there's other. You have two main packages with the manual car. You have either the executive package and the camera, the surround view camera package. Which I went with both of them. The first package, you end up getting the heads-up display, the power trunk, as well as key to the steering wheel. All of which, honestly, I really wanted, so it's a good package to get. And then the surround view camera, I think is pretty useful. They call it the driver assistance, which is a little bit deceiving. Really, it's just 360 camera. I don't know how much the car is going to drive itself in a manual, but you know.
Is it more like, you know, radar assisted collision braking?
Maybe,
system? Yeah.
maybe. I'm not too sure, but I just checked it. It was like $700, you know. Also, I got this little dash cam thing that's kind of in there, supposedly for accidents.
Yep.
And then after that, some a la carte things like ventilated seats, and then wireless charging, and then some. There's a traction control package you can get, which I honestly it's like $900. I got it mostly probably for resale purposes, to be honest with you, just in case the next person tracks the car, does more with that. You know, and then also a top speed limiter and driver's package you can get. So I went with that one as well. Again, probably more resale than anything else. You know, but in case someone wants to hit 180 instead of 155, that's an option on that car. So
Right.
yeah, that pretty much rounds up most of the options that I have on there. So.
Yeah.
All right, well, Sean, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for allowing me to review and drive your vehicle.
It's my absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Take you up on that one.
I'll be back for more.
Awesome. And more of your chicken.
Thank you.